Welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast, your guide for living a life by design. Here, we explore the journey of becoming an outlier, finding your purpose, mastering your mindset, optimizing your health, achieving financial freedom, and building a life centered around your passions. So tune in, transform, and thrive. Welcome to the Outlier Mindset. Let the journey begin. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast. Today, we're happy to have Ken Attard, founder of Mindset Malta. Ken specializes in helping frustrated entrepreneurs adapt and pivot their mindset using his proprietary ARC method. And he gets to do it all from his beautiful island home in Malta. Ken, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rodman, I am really excited to be here. Really looking forward to our conversation and where it's going to take us.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm really excited because today we're going to talk a lot about mindset. We've got a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or looking to be entrepreneurs out there. And I really want to talk about the importance of mindset when you're building a business, especially when you're trying to build that business by your own life design, build around what you love. So I'm really excited to talk to you about those things.
Yeah, I'm going to go with right away, right off the bat, from my experience and how I've had the experience over the last 2 decades of being involved in personal development, an entrepreneur as well, along the way as well. I understand if you want to call them, the trials and tribulations of an entrepreneur. And what I have discovered over the years, though, without a doubt in my mind, is that mindset truly is everything. I've come to the conclusion it really is everything, simply because when the mindset, the way you are thinking, the way you are predominantly thinking most of the time, is done purposefully, it's definitely going to have an effect on every single result and experience that you are having in your life. Meaning that essentially, you do have the power to actually design your life the way you want it to be. Now, will it take the path exactly the way you lay it out, let's say, in your mind? Potentially. Yet, without a doubt, it's always working out for you. And this thing about, designing your life is so powerful. Yet, amazingly, a very high percentage of entrepreneurs, from my experience, still tend to put mindset on the back burner. You know what? I'll get to that one day.
Yeah. And it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you're going to go build a life by design too, you got to come with the right mindset in general. I mean, I know so many people who come in and they want to do really great things. They want to do big things. They want to make change, but then they don't put their brain in the place. They don't put their mindset in the place to really go after what they want. But, and I kind of get it for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things in life that get to us day by day, right? We think things are going to go one way and they go the other way. But that's why mindset is even more important, because I feel like when you get up and if you get that obstacle, if you clip your toe on a hurdle, you're going to be able to get right back up because you're in that right mindset to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really key here is this, and it really is going to boil down to beliefs. It's going to boil down to, and this is where I like to let entrepreneurs off the hook, simply because they've been taught, for the most part, many have been taught in a certain way. So let me make this really clear. So when you speak to an entrepreneur, and now for the most part, when they're listening to even podcasts, when they're listening to, they're attending entrepreneurial events, they're reading books, all like phenomenal material out there. Yet one thing that has come to the forefront for me, and again, another discovery for me that I noticed over the years, was that an entrepreneur, for the most part, is expected to suffer, is expected to struggle, is expected to sacrifice, is expected to be stressed out. Now, ultimately, what happens is, because they are being taught this over and over again, like they just hear it constantly, how much struggle there is, how much suffering there is, and all the sacrifice, that it essentially becomes a belief. Because a belief is simply a thought that you've had over and over and over and over until ultimately you've created enough neural pathways that you truly believe it. So this is where I like to let them off the hook, because simply, if you have the belief that as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to struggle, well, you're creating your reality. That it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That is what is essentially going to be your result, is going to be your experience. And this is why I say it all ultimately will come back to your beliefs, because your thoughts, for the most part, what they do is when you have a thought, it creates an emotion. To make it really simple, it's either a feel-good emotion, feel-bad emotion. Depending on what that emotion is coming from the thought, is going to have an effect on the actions. It's going to have an effect on your actions and your behaviors, which ultimately are going to have an effect on your results and experiences. So ultimately, then you're going to have to come back to your thoughts.
Right. And you hear all the time about the hustle, the grind. It's kind of like the culture that you have as entrepreneurs, where it's kind of like, you got to get up and it's just going to be work, 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 work.
Yeah.
But that's not good for you either. I mean, you've got to have good balance in life when you're really building what you want to be living.
Absolutely. I mean, this is again another one of, let's say, what I call it my pet peeves. This thing when I hear about hustle and grind, and again, it's something that many entrepreneurs have been taught. They get taught that, how important it is to take action. You got to be taking action. Not only do you need to be taking action, they also get taught that you need to be taking massive action, and all the time. I mean, there are people out there teaching about, how your calendar can't have any white space. It's got to be full. It's got to be, and if it's not full, then you're not doing enough. And again, just back to this grind and hustle. When in actual fact, believe it or not, one of the first things that I have to tell many an entrepreneur when I'm working with them, one of the first things I have to say to them is, you got to stop. You got to stop. You got to slow down. And this, for the most part, many times will actually freak them out. They're like, stop? How come you're telling me to stop? Because if I stop, someone is going to, take a piece of the pie and I'm going to be left behind and I'm not going to keep up and someone else is going to be, and again, letting them off the hook. Many, that's the way they've been taught. And it's simply coming from a lack mentality versus an abundant mentality, an abundant mindset. Because if we look at the proverbial pie of abundance and someone takes a piece of that pie away, when you take abundance away from abundance, you're left with abundance. There's always enough for everyone. Yet you got to have, like you said, the right mindset and understand that, okay, there is enough for everyone. I just have to do my part. And it's not about the action. Action is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. And you're going to have your part in that. Yet I've come to discover as well that there's a significant difference between taking action and taking inspired action.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
This is where more efficiency starts to come, so that ultimately then you can actually have more time for yourself, for the things that you want to have in your life besides your business.
It's really easy to fall into those traps. I still do it. I'm an entrepreneur to the core, right? And every single day that I get up, I'm looking at, how can I be better? How can I do more? How can I do this? How can I do that? I say I'm going to do 8 hours. I end up doing 12 hours. Now, sometimes that's okay, right? Sometimes we got to do what we got to do as an entrepreneur. But there's also that threshold of, like you said, the abundance. And I've always lived that life. I love the idea of looking at the world as being a world of abundance, right? We've got there's enough for everybody in this world, in this world. Mm-hmm. So many people get caught up in going, I need my share. I need my share. I need my share. And that's not a healthy way to be looking at life, because there's no shares. There's plenty for all of us.
Yeah. And the cool thing about this is that when someone is looking from that perspective and saying, I got to get my share and I got to do more and I got to, essentially what they're saying is that that's actually missing in their life. Their perspective is that they don't have enough. that they don't have it. So as you continue to look at that, and that essentially is coming from the way they're thinking, because everything outside of you is simply a reflection of what is going on inside of you. So if you're constantly saying, I got to do more because I got to achieve more, and I got to get this and I got to get that, you essentially are saying to yourself that, you know what, I'm missing out on stuff. I lack something. There's something missing from my life, and your mind will search for evidence of that. So you will continue to see a lack of that outside of you. So once you start to shift that inside and say, wait, just a second here. Yes, I agree with you 100%, Rodman. There are times when you're going to be putting in a little more time into your business. There's going to be times when potentially you need to shift that balance and say, I need to put a little more time into my relationships. I need to put a little more time into my health. I need to put a little more time into my spirituality. And that's all intertwined with balance, and they vary from time to time without a doubt. So this is really, really key, because just because you are doing more, and I'm going to put that in quotation marks, doing more, doesn't necessarily mean that you are achieving more. There are many an entrepreneur out there, very busy, doing nothing.
Right.
Just because you're busy doesn't mean that you're being efficient.
Agreed. And there's some people, it's kind of hard to break out of those patterns. You get into those patterns of, okay, I'm really busy. But you lose sight on what's important. Like in so much busy work, you're doing so many things that you think are moving you toward your end goal or toward your journey, making sure that you're going on the journey that you want to be going on. But at the same time, a lot of this busy work leads to nothing. It leads to nowhere.
Well, essentially, it will lead to, let's use nowhere. And you mentioned something very, very important now is the journey. And as much of a cliche as this is, I was just talking to someone about this today as well. He's like, cliche? What do you mean cliche? Well, it's a cliche. How many times in our lifetime have we heard, enjoy the journey?
Right.
And I say it's a cliche simply because as much as we've heard that, it's a truth. It really is a foundational truth. Enjoy the journey. And let's elaborate a tiny bit on that. I had heard this a few years ago, and it stuck with me very much so, is that you can't have a joyful result while having an unjoyful journey. Mm-hmm. It just can't happen. And what happens is, and this is simply because the entrepreneur, the business person, the individual is so focused on the end result. And I'd like to put in brackets here, there is no end. You never get there because there's always more, which is a natural thing. It's just being detached from that. And we could touch upon that. Yet, if the entrepreneur is so focused on the end result, what is the sense of being so focused on that end result because you think you're going to have it all when you get to that end result, yet in the meantime, you're miserable.
Right.
Your relationships are, whatever they are, your health is going out the window. What is the sense behind that? And like you rightfully said, you got to come back and remind yourself. And this is why it's about, when it comes to mindset, one of the things that's very, very important, I consider very important, and not just in mindset, anybody who wants to be successful, it's about consistency. It's about being dedicated. It's not about grind and hustle. It's about being dedicated and consistency. It doesn't mean, it's going to take up your whole day or whatever it is, yet allowing and dedicating a bit of time to learning one thing more, or repeating something that you thought you learned and you repeated it again and looked at it and maybe had an aha moment to go, oh, or like you rightfully said as well, reminding yourself, oh yeah, you know what? It's not about the grind and the hustle. It's about remembering to enjoy the journey. So let me just remember to laugh a little more today.
Well, I think too, it comes a lot down to really aligning your purpose in life with what you're doing also. I know that At one point in my career, I had 13 companies going at one time. This is rich dad, poor dad philosophy of, buying a cash flow, getting a cash flow in place. But I started putting profits before purpose. I started looking at the cash flows and said, okay, this is a great cash flow. I'm going to buy this business. I'm going to run this business. We're going to do this thing. But then we lost sight of the purpose element. And it was miserable. It was miserable running a bunch of companies that meant really nothing to me but a cash flow. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that trap. They start looking at money. They start looking at profitability, but they don't understand how that aligns with the life they want to be living, with a purpose that they are meant to be doing on this journey. And it's painful to go through life when you're not aligned with your purpose. But the sad thing is only 5% of people in the world are living a life based on purpose. Most of them have life happening to them instead of for them.
Absolutely. 100% agree. And it's a big question, and it's an essential question I think it's so important when you're even just starting out as an entrepreneur is understanding what your values are, what that purpose is, if we want to use that, and asking, why am I actually doing this business? And the interesting thing about the money, and what a lot of entrepreneurs haven't quite grasped yet until they do, is that it's not about chasing the money. It's not about chasing that success, however way you define it. In actual fact, the success, the money, is actually a byproduct of your purpose, your journey, the way you are thinking. It's actually a byproduct of it. Because when you are aligned with your purpose, when you've understood why you're actually doing the business that you're doing, why you're living the life that you're living, and you're in a frame of mind where it's abundant and you're looking at things in what I like to call a good feeling mindset, from a good feeling mindset stand of point, meaning you're just looking for things to feel good about. When you're doing that, then you're aligning yourself with a frequency that has to give you circumstances, situations, people, opportunities that are aligned with that as well. And this is so vital, because once you understand your values, and this is why even when the example you gave of you saw a business, you saw this is really good cash flow, I want to buy this, let's run with this. Well, when you're setting that and you're looking at that goal, it's really important to holistically, ecologically look at the goal that you're setting, meaning, okay, I'm going to go for this. Now, how is this going to have an effect on my social life? How is this going to have an effect on my health? How is this going to have an effect on my intimate relationships? And looking at all of these aspects, and if it's going to compromise some of those that are important values to you, you're going to want to have to look at it closely and see how you could potentially go about it in a slightly different way, or potentially say, you know what, this is not for me.
You got to be able to say no. I mean, when you're an entrepreneur, that was one of my biggest mistakes early on. Is like, I didn't have the ability. I saw that shiny new thing, or I saw that big opportunity, or I saw whatever, and I couldn't say no. And for me, it took a very valuable lesson to be learned, where I did go ahead and sell those companies because they just weren't serving me. They were serving a cash flow and such, but they weren't serving me. So I've got what I call my sacred check boxes. So I've got 4 things that I want to build my life around. And if somebody comes to me with an opportunity, with an idea, or whatever, I won't even look at it if it doesn't check those boxes.
Perfect.
The ability
I love
to
it.
just say no.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really important. And this is why I say, you got to look at your values. What are they? Like if freedom is important to you, for instance, if it's an important value to you, if you're going to embark on something and it's going to compromise your freedom in one way or another, like you said, you could just easily look at it and say, you know what, this isn't for me. If fun is important to you as a value, and if this is going to compromise having fun in your life, or it's not going to be something that's going to give you joy, why even bother looking at it? Because what essentially is going to do once the incongruencies begin, once you are compromising your values, this is where a lot of entrepreneurs begin to feel the stress. They don't even realize that they're actually compromising their own values, not even realizing it, and they're wondering why they're feeling stressed out. So it's essential to be able to say no and to recognize what your core values are.
I tell people too, a lot of people come in, anytime I get a partner or I get somebody who's doing something and they come in and say, I'm going to make so much money doing this. I always say, you guys got to come back. You got to reel it in and say to yourself, I am going to serve so many people when I do this. I am going to help so many people when I'm doing this. So many people get tied up in the financial part. They get tied up in the money and think that the money is going to set them free. The money is going to make them happy. The money is going to set them, it's going to fulfill them on the inside. It's going to, control who they are in life. Money is just a result from doing something good or giving something into something or giving something into somebody, right?
Absolutely.
I think our whole lives, the way that we look at money needs to be shifted. Money's good. We all need money to sustain. Yeah. Money can really get us a lot of things, but never lead with the money. When you lead with the service.
This is exactly what I was saying before about the money being a byproduct. So when you are serving, and again, what ties in nicely with the serving that we're saying as well, and with what we were talking about, the values as well, because it is also important to serve yourself as well. We're serving ourselves, and at the same time, we're serving others. So it's a continuous cycle. So when you're compromising your values, as we were saying before, you're not serving yourself. And this is where the serving part comes in very, very important. Essentially, for me to be able to give you an apple, I need to have an apple first. So I need to be serving myself so that I can serve others. And then the byproduct of that is going to be abundance. It's going to be abundance in many different areas of your life. You don't know, you don't know where certain things are going to lead you. I heard I was hearing someone speak a while ago now, this is a couple of years ago as well, and he was talking about relationships, and he was asking the question as to why do we build relationships, right? And many people are answering, we build relationships, I don't know, to build trust, to do this and to do that and so on. And he simply said, listen, we build relationships to build relationships. Man. And where they go, you don't know. We could have a conversation now, and 5 years down the road, because we had a great conversation, we connected and something came out of it, or it didn't come out, or we served each other in one way or another. So it is so, the serving is so, so vitally important. And this is where, again, with mindset that I like to say as well, is this is why looking at yourself and starting with yourself, because it's very easy as well in life in general and in the entrepreneurial world, without a doubt, to blame this and to blame that. The economy is not good, and this is not good, and this is bad, and this employee has done this, and this is causing all the. It's very easy to look at outside circumstances and say, whatever's happening is because of that. Yet remember, as we said at the beginning, you're creating your reality. You have a part in it. You have a part in it. So you gotta stop. I mean, this happens to me so, something goes, off, and I go, that didn't exactly happen the way I thought it was going to happen. I have to stop, look at myself, reflect, and say, okay, what was my part in this? What could I shift? What could I change? How can I be the difference so that this doesn't happen again or doesn't occur again? So really, really important. Look at ourselves so we can serve ourselves, because without doing that, we're not going to be able to serve others to the capacity that we truly want to.
I agree. And there are times that things are going to be out of our control. There are times that things are going to happen to us. They're not going to be great. You can sit there and reflect all you want and go, there's nothing I could have done different. But the one thing that you can always do is you can change how you take that information in, how you react to it. How do I get up and how do I move on from it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll change one thing there for me is I'll change react, how I'm going to respond. Simply because reacting, more often than not, reacting is the way you have always acted previously. And that's potentially going to give you the same result. Now, rather than react, so classic example, a lot of people, when they get angry, they yell. And that people are very quick to say, oh, but that's just the way I am. No, that's just the way you've taught yourself, or someone has taught you, or someone has taught you, and you've just taken on that belief. So now the next time I say, rather than react that way, you need one minute extra second to say, how could I respond differently to get a different outcome, to get a different result? Because I'm just going to react, I'm just going to act in the same way, and I'm going to get the same result. Now I respond differently, and everything begins to change.
And I feel like that's just can be as simple as an awareness. I mean, as simple as taking a step back, having an awareness of what's happening, and then, like you said, how do you respond? How do you push it out? But it's an awareness of having that in your brain of understanding, okay, this has happened. How am I going to process this, and how am I going to respond?
Yeah, and everything, you just said something so important. Everything begins with awareness. And awareness is really all about learning. For me, it's one of my core pillars. It's one of the first pillars. It's awareness. It's about learning. It's being willing, first and foremost, to learn. Because there are a lot of people, who, talk a lot, yet they're not willing to change things. They say they want to change, but in actual fact, they don't. And they don't simply because they've learned a certain way. They're comfortable in that way, even though it's potentially not giving them the results they want, yet they're comfortable in that way because that's what they know so far. And they just don't have the willingness to learn. Yet when you have the willingness, your awareness begins to expand. Because awareness is about learning. Now, tying in with it's not just about learning new things. One of the things that I think is absolutely vital when it comes to the learning is understanding that, up until now, you've been taught in a certain way. We were talking about before how many entrepreneurs are taught that you have to suffer, sacrifice, struggle, stress out. Many people have been taught that way. And I think this is really, really important, just because there is a large majority of people that have been taught that way doesn't mean it's the truth.
Mm.
So if you have, all your life been taught that, that the shirt that you have on you is the color red, if you've been taught that it's red, you believe it's red until someone comes along and says, hey, you know what, Rodman, just a second here. There's another perspective here. I know a number of people who say, this is blue. Let's delve into this. Let's look into this. Let's potentially learn something new. And now all of a sudden you have a whole new perspective. And remember, once you change the perspective on the inside, the perspective outside of you begins to change as well.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about ARC. I know that
Okay.
that's one of your favorite things to talk about. You kind of already went over in ARC a little bit, but let's roll it back a little bit and start from the beginning on that and talk a little bit about the power of ARC.
Yes, sure, absolutely. So I have something that I call the ARC method. And the cool thing about this ARC method is whatever program I am developing or have in place, or whenever I'm working with anybody, the ARC method underlines it underlines all of these programs. It weaves in and out of all of these programs. Now, a lot of people think that I've chosen ARC as an acronym, ARC, so A means something, R means something, and C means something. In actual fact, it's not that. I like simple.
I get it.
I like simple, okay? I truly believe in simple. And I chose ARC simply because an arc or an arch is one of the strongest structures when it comes to architecture. It's a foundation. And the ARC method is a very strong foundation when it comes to mindset. And we already touched upon the first pillar. It's made up of 5 pillars. The first pillar is awareness, as we already spoke about, about learning. And then the second pillar is adapting, which is all about change. And as you're fully aware, as I'm sure many an entrepreneur listening here is fully aware, change essentially is really the only constant. It's happening, It's going to, and it's going to continue to happen. And, right now there are certain things in your business that are potentially working really well. And then all of a sudden, 3 months down the road, a year down the road, those things that were working really well, not working so well right now. So you got to look at it and say, okay, what can I adapt? How can I adapt? How can I make changes? What can I do differently? Where can I pivot? And this is where this came from as well, is like, adapting and pivoting. And especially when it comes to your mindset, I'm all about people shifting their mindset so that they can create those realities. They can create those successes. They can design the lives that they truly want to design. Like, how brilliant is that when you can actually look at your life and design it, and you can be the creator of your own life. It's just amazing, amazing stuff. So that's the second pillar of the ARC method. I don't know if you wanted to add something first.
Well, no, I was just going to say that, when we work as companies or as businesses, and I always tell entrepreneurs that it's important that you think about evolving, right? Everything's going to evolve. Like you said, change is going to happen every single day. Every single day, there's going to be something new. Every single day, there's going to be a new competitor. There's going to be a new this. There's going to be a new that. And people hate change, right? They hate it. It's like, I don't want to change. I like it the way it is right now. I don't want change. I tell people it's inevitable. You're not going to stop the change.
Yeah, and the cool thing is this is once they realize, like, it's really interesting. People want to fight change, for instance, and what they don't realize is that whenever you're putting up a fight, something's going to push back. So I like to say, listen, let's shift this. And let's embrace the change. What good can come out of this change? Potentially, it's going to lead you to doing, creating new systems that are actually going to work even better in your business. It's potentially going to lead you to new opportunities that, if the change didn't happen, you wouldn't even have looked at. I mean, being like totally transparent. I mean, if I look back on my life and I look at all the times that there was, adapting and changing. Like, I was, for those who don't realize, like, I was born in Toronto, Canada. So I grew up on skates. I grew up on ice skates. I played ice hockey. I moved, when I was 14, I moved to an island that does not have ice.
Uh-huh. Mm.
Talk about, now, I wasn't thinking about adapting and changing all that stuff at that time, but I look back and I go, holy mackerel. And then, all the different, stages of my life from going from one thing to another. And then, this is really good. And then this changes. And it's just embracing that change will make things so much easier, because now you're not resisting it. And the more you're going to resist something, the more that something is going to persist. So rather than fight it, embrace it and look at it as an opportunity to move forward.
So 14, you moved to Malta, and you're still there. There must be a beautiful country. There must be something about Malta.
Oh, wow. Like, there's tons of stuff. Believe it or not, one of the things that I love the most about Malta is its smallness, believe it or not. And why do I say that? I mean, it's an island that's 120 square miles. And I actually have a small place as well on its sister island, which is 60 square miles, which I like to get away to sometimes for inspiration and stuff like that as well. But I like the smallness simply because, the lifestyle, I love the lifestyle. It's a Mediterranean lifestyle. So it's a little bit slower. Now, I've seen the pace pick up over the years, and we have everything here. I mean, there's nothing missing. But one of the cool things is I can call up a friend and say, hey, let's get together want to get together for a quick coffee or a cappuccino? And, and we can be somewhere in 10, 15 minutes. And we're chatting away. It's, and then, we spend maybe half an hour, and then we're off again on our own business and stuff like that. It's an amazing place. I love the weather. I mean, I think it's one of the reasons my dad decided he wanted to move back after 16 years in Canada. I think he wanted to go where the sun shines 300 days a year. So I think he was done with the cold. So yeah, we got absolutely amazing weather. I mean, it's February. I was out in a t-shirt today. I mean, it was, and it's just like that, we've got beaches, we got, there's nightlife for those people who enjoy the nightlife. We've got history. The place has a ton of for people who love history. There's tons and tons of history. We actually have temples. A lot of people don't realize that we have freestanding temples that are actually older than the pyramids.
Oh, wow.
So, absolutely. Yeah, that are actually older than the pyramids. So, and when you look at these things and you go next to them, you go, okay, how did they move these stones? There definitely was a different civilization. That's a whole nother story.
Right.
But yeah, it's an amazing place. And that's why I've stayed here. That's absolutely why I stayed here. It's an amazing place. I love it. I think it will always be my base. And thankfully, the way things have gone, I'm on a 120 square mile island and I can still work with people all around the world.
Yeah. I mean, and you got to keep doing that in life. The people, you're either growing or you're dying, right? I mean, you're either evolving and learning, or if you're just going to resist everything and say, I don't want anymore. I don't want to learn anymore. I'm done. You might as well at that point just hang it up. People who come to me and say, well, I already know everything, right? We know this is not true. There are so many people that think they know everything right out of the gates. It's like, oh, are you kidding me? It's like, we know a fraction of, just a minimal fraction of anything, because life is so complex and interesting and exciting. It's kind of like you always got to open up your mind and say, you know what? Every step of the way, I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I want to keep evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely vital. I mean, it comes back to the you want your awareness to continue to expand and to continue to learn. And like I said before, you're not going to come to the end. You're just not going to come to the end. It's simply because there's always going to be more. And even when it comes to your business, and even when it comes to let's say your accomplishments or whatever you want to accomplish, you're gonna come to a point where you accomplish something and you go, okay, so what's next? The key point for me is this: not being attached to that, not being attached to those acquisitions, to those achievements. Even when it comes to business, so many entrepreneurs are so lost in their business that it's become such an integral part of their identity. And what I like to say is this: I highly suggest to anybody, do not attach yourself to anything in this world. I don't care what it is. Don't attach yourself to your business. Don't attach yourself to your spouse. Don't attach yourself to your children. And I'm not saying that you don't love them and that you don't show compassion and you don't. Yet, they are not going to make you happy. No wife, no husband is going to make you happy. No child is going to make you happy. Yes, there will be joyful moments without a doubt, and you can complement each other. Yet this is your choice to be happy.
100%. And I always tell people, that when we have people in our lives, whether it's our kids or our spouse, our friends, our family, we're just all visitors in one another's lives. That's all we're doing. We're just visiting. And for me, who am I to tell you what you should be or how you should do something or how you should think or how you should act? That's not for me. I'm just a visitor here. I'm here to support you, to love you, to hear you, to embrace the things that you want to be doing, to be lifting you up. But that's it. Other than that,
absolutely.
At the end of this journey, we hope to see one another in another realm, but that's about it.
Yeah, and it's about guiding, and even in a position of myself. So, for instance, as a coach or consultant, I have no right to coach someone or consult someone without them asking first. They have to ask me first. They have to have that willingness to ask, because maybe they don't want. And who am I? How do I have the right to intervene in that person's path? Because right now, that's the path they potentially need to be on to learn the lessons they came to learn. And this is so beautiful because I love to intertwine this with business and recognizing how, each and every one of us, at our core, we're all the same. At our core, who we are, the essence of who we are, it's all the same. Which takes me right into the next pillar, which is alignment. And it's tapping into something that's much bigger than you. Call it whatever you would like to call it. You can call it God. You can call it source. You can call it energy. You can call it field. You can call it quantum field. Nowadays, for the most part, I like to call it the umami self. Why do I call it the umami self? Simply because in the food world, umami is that deliciousness, that taste that is indescribable. The umami self is the essence of the deliciousness of who you truly are. And this is what alignment is all about, is tapping into that, essentially because tapping into that is where everything you want already is. Now, this ties in with what we were talking about before, about the slowing down. Because more often than not, for that alignment to happen, you have to slow down. You have to slow down your thinking enough, your brainwaves enough, so that you can allow that inspiration to come to you. You can allow that solution to come to you. You can draw in the opportunities to you. And this is where it starts to shift, because now you are no longer chasing, you are actually drawing it into you. And you start to become more efficient, because now rather than having to speak to, 100 clients to bring in 5 new clients, you're speaking to 10 and bringing in 5. And this starts, it becomes much, much, much more efficient, because everything you want is there. How do we do the alignment part? I like to call it quiet time, meditation, maybe getting out in nature a tiny bit, or simply, like I like to say, just a bit of quiet time. That means no internet, no phones, no kids, no spouse, just you quiet yourself, just totally, and it doesn't take long. Give yourself 15 minutes a day and just do that and allow yourself. This is why so many entrepreneurs, without even knowing, get a solution or get inspiration while they're in the shower. Well, they just happen to they slowed themselves down enough and maybe said, you know what, I'm just going to take the shower and I'm going to stop thinking. And they do.
Yes.
And in that moment, in that gap, that's where the solution comes, because the frequency of a problem is not the frequency of the solution. But you have to allow yourself to tap into that frequency of the solution first.
Now, entrepreneurs are busy too. I mean, we're always thinking, we're always busy. Our heads are always grinding. My wife is also an entrepreneur. She's really, really aligned right now with her purpose and her passion. She's so excited about what she's doing. She's got this flower farm here in Colorado, and she's doing classes, and she's teaching people how to work through grief, through getting their hands dirty on the farm. It's just a beautiful thing that she's doing. But she gives me, for years, she's given me a bad time, because I'll be the guy getting up at 4 a.m. with that idea or that thing going on. It's like, now she's up this morning, matter of fact, she was up at 4 a.m. going right out of the gates. I'm like going, that's it.
See?
It's like, you're aligned. You got your purpose. But like you said, it is good. The most creative things, the most solutions, the most ideas come to me when I go do my 1 hour walk. I go do this 1 hour a day. I just break up from my desk and I'll go and I'll come back and I'll have so many answers because I stepped out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crucial. And again, I mean, understand this. When you know that, because for the most part, many, or let's say a high percentage of entrepreneurs might do that coincidentally, nothing's really coincidence, yet they do that without purpose. So, like I said, they happen to be in the shower and the solution came. But now that you become aware of that, you can actually purposefully do that, which ties in nicely with designing your life. Because now you're designing, you're saying, you know what? I'm going to take a 15-minute break. It could be halfway through your day, in the middle of your day. And you say, you know what? I just need to take, I find myself saying, you know what? I really need to take a power nap. Right? And I'll put my timer on, like I can do it. Like my girlfriend says to me, like, how do you do that? How do you do 7 minutes and manage to take, I say, because it's just revitalizes me. And before I go into it, I just, ask, for potentially a solution or some inspiration, so that, and all of a sudden I wake up and I have the outline of a talk I want to do, or whatever it is. It just comes. So it's when you can design that and do that purposefully. Like, what an amazing, and I call it's a superpower. Your mindset is your superpower. Now, could you ever imagine, I don't know, let's give a couple of examples. Could you ever imagine Superman, like, not putting on his cape to do whatever he does? Could you ever imagine Iron Man not wearing his outfit and do what he does? No, because that's part of their superpower. Yet, so many entrepreneurs, they leave their superpower on the shelf, man. They just leave it there and say, you know what, one day I'll get to that mindset thing, but right now I got too many tasks to do. I can't get to it. And they just leave it there. When in actual fact, if they actually just bring it over, start to delve into it, they'll get so much more done. And ultimately, I truly believe, be happier and move towards what I like to call true freedom.
Now that I think about it, does that cape do anything for Superman? I mean, does it? The guy's bulletproof. I mean, what does it do?
But have you ever seen him fly without it?
No, never. But I don't know. All these superheroes have these capes, and they don't do anything. I think that might be the superhero crutch.
I think it's for effect.
Well, we can handle that. So we've got go over. So we've gotten
awareness. We went through awareness, adapting, alignment. Number 4 is applying, and we've already spoken about this in actual fact. So applying is about inspired action, not just action. So it's about inspired action. So it's about, taking the time, like we were saying, to slow down and having the awareness about, when you see yourself actually going too fast. So it's taking that alignment, and now, okay, from that alignment, I'm receiving inspiration, I'm receiving solutions. Okay, so you could receive those, but are you actually going to apply them? Are you actually going to take action on that inspiration so that you're actually applying inspired action? So that's the 4th pillar. And then the 5th pillar, which this is really, really important, and for me, it's been a big lesson in my life, and it's allowing. And allowing is all about trust, and it's about trusting yourself, trusting your umami self, trusting the divine, that everything is coming together exactly the way it's meant to come together. Even when, and this is really, I think this is crucial, even when it comes to true freedom, true success, even when it appears that things aren't going the way you want them to go, even when it appears that things are really down for you, that business isn't working out the way you want, that cash flow isn't the way you want it to be, that the clients aren't coming in the way you want to be, even though it appears that things are going wrong, trusting in the divine, having that true trust, trusting in yourself, trusting in the divine, that everything is always working out for you. Just like you were saying before, that life isn't happening to you. Life is happening for you. Yeah. So everything is working out for you. So if you really and truly 100% trust that, you will not be taking yourself into a spiral. Yeah. Because what happens to many is they take themselves in a spiral. They're seeing evidence outside of them that things are not the way they want them to be. They continue to look at that evidence, create more of that evidence, whereas rather than stopping and saying, okay, just a second, rather than react at all of this that's going on here. Yes, let me look at what's going on here. Okay, let me get myself realigned. Let me remind myself that I can trust that everything is working out. Now it does take practice, because there are going to be times throughout your career, throughout your life, when you're like, holy mackerel, what the heck is going on? So this allowing, this trusting is absolutely, for me, is really, really crucial, because when you can take a step back and trust, now you really don't have anything to worry about.
I feel too, it's very empowering. I feel like when you get that trust and you believe that everything's happening for a reason, and you're trying to look for those reasons, and you're trying to understand the whys behind it, I feel that's when you are really empowered. So you're no longer a victim. You're not a victim to things that are happening to you in your life. you're actually taking those things into your life, figuring out what the message is, what the purpose of that action is, so that you can really understand it and take it and use it for your benefit. Use it to empower you versus being the victim.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you're looking at it and you're constantly getting feedback. So again, failure, non-existent. You look at things and you say, okay, I got a result. It wasn't the result that I wanted. It doesn't mean I'm a failure. It's just, okay, let me take the feedback now. Let me look at it. Okay, how can I shift this? What can I do differently? And again, with that trust, and this is why, and like you were saying, it is very empowering, because now, and even if you don't figure out why something is happening, because sometimes, remember, neither you, myself, or anybody really has the whole picture. Like, if we did, we'd sort of like be omnipresent, we'd be omnipotent.
Right.
We don't have the whole picture. So I like to explain it very simply. Again, I had heard this a while ago. I was speaking to a guy and I said, this is really cool. Essentially, you live on the first floor of a 30-story apartment. I live on the 30th story. You're leaving for work. And I call up from above and I say to you, Rob, and I say, listen, you know what? Normally you go to the left. Today, don't go to the left because there's a ton of traffic. There's an accident. Go to the right. But you're on the first floor and you're going like, what are you talking about? There's nothing here. But you just can't see what I can see. And this is what, we don't have the full picture. This is why everything is happening out for you, because you know what? Your business is not going so well right now. Because of that, there's a new opportunity going to be presented to you that is absolutely magnificent, that is far superior to anything you could have imagined so far. If you're open to it, if you're willing to see it. And that's why the alignment is so important, because if you're not aligning with that frequency of being open and trusting and open to that frequency, you're not going to see it. It's just going to bypass you. That's why some people can go through life saying life is horrible. Life is a disaster. Life is, because they just continue to look at the things that didn't go well in their life, and it becomes their story.
I think a lot of people too take that on. So they'll take this on and they'll think to themselves, they might have a good grasp on what they see. They might understand things. They might have a good way of looking at things. They might have that. But so many people in their lives don't have that same mentality. They're telling them why things are wrong, why they shouldn't do new, why they should continue to go left instead of going right. Because you can have that clear vision, but when you're surrounded by people that don't also have that clear vision, it can cloudy who you are and what you do.
This is cool, because this could take us into a whole different direction, but it ties in with what I like to call true freedom. And there are components that make up this true freedom. I've been working on this for several months now, personally, and looking at it, and I'm developing something. But one of the core elements of to have true freedom is exactly what you're saying, is to really no longer care what other people are saying and believing about you. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't take advice from someone potentially you trust and has your best interest or whatever. Yet you got to come to a point where you just go, you know what? I really don't care what people are saying about me or thinking about me. Because in actual fact, for the most part, they're only saying that because they just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, they don't know.
They don't know. So just because they don't know doesn't mean that I don't know. It doesn't mean that I can't go for it. So this is a real key component when it comes to true freedom. It's just like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. This thing about again in the entrepreneurial world and in society and all these, there's all these things potentially people want us to conform to, and you need to dress this way and you need to be this way and you need to act this way, and if it's compromising your authenticity, like, who cares? Like, even something as simple as, we were talking a bit before, and you're having a chat on a podcast, and I don't know, I fumble a word or something like that. We were saying this before. Yeah, big deal. We fumble words in normal conversations. Big deal. So what? People realize, oh, we're human like anybody else, and we have our challenges, and we have this. So this thing about, really just let it go, man. Like, who cares what people think? You can keep focused on those people if you want to. If you want to continue looking at those people you are saying, because again, this is still playing somewhat of the victim. These people keep bringing me down because I'm surrounded by these people who bring me down. They don't bring you down. You allow it to happen because now you're thinking about what you think other people are thinking about you. When in actual fact, and I'm excited to share this for those listening, in actual fact, other people, most of the time, they're not thinking about you because they're the center of their own universe. They're thinking about themselves. So while you're all worked up and thinking about, oh my God, I said this, and now John is thinking this about me, and he's thinking this about me, and I don't know what's going to happen. John's at home having dinner with his family, just enjoying himself.
Right.
Because he's not thinking about you.
No, of course he's not.
So stop creating these stories in your head and create the stories that you want.
Love
Create
it.
the stories that are going to help you to design the life you want.
100%. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And we all get caught up in those traps of listening to others more than we listen to ourselves. And that is such a big critical mistake, especially when you're trying to do what you want to be building in your own life. Nobody, like you said, nobody cares. They're not getting up. They're not sitting at that dinner table going, oh, how can I help Rodman achieve his goals and his dreams today? They might be the same people who will pick your dreams and your goals apart because they don't understand them. But you got to put you first. You got to put your thinking first. You got to put what you want in your head.
Many years ago, which is exactly this, many years ago, I had a retail outlet, and it was the first retail outlet I ever had. So it was sort of like, in the entrepreneur, we like to talk about our baby and and I held on to this retail outlet for probably an extra 2 years simply because of the things I was thinking about. People are going to think I'm a failure. I have to close the shop, and that closed the shop and life carried on.
It always does. And the same thing, I always think about that even in death, right? When we hit the end of our lives, life is going to carry on. People are going to get up the next day. They're going to go to work. They're going to be building their businesses. They're going to be doing the things they like. It's kind of like enjoy every moment that you are here, because when you are gone, life doesn't stop.
Yeah. Do I have time to add something to this?
Please do.
Okay. So this is a great exercise to do as well. And I often like to do this not sounding, macabre or whatever you want to call it, just imagine you're at your own funeral and your friends are there, your colleagues are there, your family's there, all the people you've interacted with in your life. What would you like them to say about you? Now, I can guarantee you there's a number of things that are going to come out. And the other thing that I can guarantee you that when they write their list, when people write their list, and I've done this in groups, and when they write their list, no one's saying, oh, what an amazing car he had, or what an amazing house he had. That's not what people want them to say about them. They want them to say things like, he was an amazing colleague, he was always ready to help, it was all of these things, all of these wonderful things. So now the question I ask is this: is that the way you're living your life right now? So if you want people to say these things, is that the way you're living your life now? And if it's not, what could you do to start living that way?
I hear you. I mean, that is definitely how you should be looking at life, because at the end of this journey, at some point, somebody's going to be living in my house. All my possessions, somebody's going to own my possessions.
God, yeah.
My car is going to be gone. It's probably going to be in the scrapyard. Everything that we have right now, we think is so stinking important to us, but they're just things.
Yeah, that's why detach from everything in this life.
Mm-hmm.
You have a nice car? That's wonderful. Great. No, nothing wrong with that. If it was gone tomorrow, how would that affect you? If you're good, no problem. It's gone. Okay, we'll work on getting another one. And same thing with your business, because your business is here today, could potentially be gone tomorrow. That's another component of true freedom, because you just reminded me, is that your worthiness, who you are, irrespective of the results that you're getting now, irrespective of what's going on in your life, when you truly understand that your worthiness is never, ever compromised, it's always intact, now you're starting to touch upon true freedom, because nothing can get to you.
True freedom. And living that life that you want to be living. That is true freedom. Yeah. That is true freedom.
Absolutely.
Ken, this has been great. I mean, I'm so glad that you came on the show today. I think this has been a great conversation. I mean, people if we could just live our lives being true to who we are and how we want to be living them, the world would be such a better place, right? And it's kind of hard to see so many people getting up and letting life happen to them because, we got the car payment, we got the house payment, we've got kids, we've got this, we've got that. There's always these reasons why we're not living our own life by our own design. But I feel like there's an opportunity. We can break out of these cycles. We can start building a life by design if we really put in and work at it. And I think a lot of the fundamentals that you brought out today were just fantastic. So thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I agree with you 100%. It's a matter of, dedication. I really like using that word dedication simply because, it intertwines all the things that people talk about, and having to work hard and all this. It's just being dedicated and making a decision and saying, okay, this is how I want to design my life. Let me start delving into mindset, one aspect, because there's many things you can look at, but let me start to look at how I'm thinking. What are my beliefs? What can I change? And then you one day at a time, you start designing that life exactly the way you're saying.
100%. And I want people to be able to find you, Ken. So if people are going to find you, where would you like them to find you at?
Where would I like them to find me at? Well, there's a number of ways. They can definitely follow me on Instagram if they'd like to, on Mindset Malta. They can find me on Facebook under Mindset Malta as well. And if they would like to send me an email, by all means, ken@mindsetmalta.com, without a doubt. And if they want a little bit of a surprise, something they can have, let me throw it in there for free. All they have to do is go to growth, 4 entrepreneurs.com, and they get a little more information about myself, but I also have a treat for them there as well if they would like to.
Now that'll be perfect. Last question for you. I like to ask this at the end of all the podcasts. If you could go back in time and sit down with your younger self, what is the most valuable piece of information that you think you could give your younger self that's going to benefit them through their life?
I would say it's okay. Everything is always working out for you. And remember to laugh a lot more, especially when you can laugh at yourself.
Love it. Ken, thank you for being on the show today. Appreciate you. Reach out to Ken if you guys have any questions or would like to connect. And thank you for everybody for listening to the show today. Really, really impactful information. So Ken, thank you very much for coming on.
My absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. Rodman, thanks.